Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new episode here today for the F1 2020 Driver Career Mode. Today we are here for the Canadian Grand Prix, and if you guys missed the last episode at Monaco, then go check it out guys. I'll leave a link up in the top right hand corner of your screen, and if you want to go check that out, by all means do so. And one last plug before we jump into it guys. Again, I say it every video, but we are very close to 50,000 subs, so any help guys, if you are new to the channel and you are watching for the first time, then hit that red subscribe button guys, it would massively help me out. And without further ado, let's get today's video underway. So, as you can see on screen, we do have the weather forecast this weekend for the Canadian Grand Prix, and we do have rain expected for qualifying, which is going to be really interesting moving into the weekend. We then move on to the R&D graph, and we're currently 5th best. So we have actually improved. We brought a couple of upgrades this weekend, and we've jumped McLaren and Renault, and we're just behind Racing Point. So we're on the cusp of breaking into the top 4, which is really exciting. And then also we've got another upgrade on the way for the aerodynamics. It is a major one, and it's going to be for the rear downforce, and hopefully that will be the one that might just help get really close to Racing Point, and we can hopefully overtake them soon. But with that said, we move into practice here this weekend at Canada, and it's a track that I love. I really enjoy it, and I'm hoping the car goes well around here, because in my team I've had some very good races around here, so I'm kind of hoping for that same kind of luck this weekend. So here, as you can see, we're hitting the track in practice, just trying to get used to the feeling of the car around here, and just trying to see where the limits are, because of course this is a Honda engine, and this track is a power circuit, so we've got to see how that goes. After practice we've got a pretty decent amount of R&D points, and that's going to take us just above 1100 points in total as we now move into qualifying here at Canada. And I'm looking forward to this, because it's going to be a really exciting session, and we've been in Q3 most races so far this season, so I'm hoping to keep that streak up, because it's been really good so far, and the car's been extremely consistent. So as you can see, we're now on Q1, and we're having a pretty low-key start to the session. You can see we hit the curb there on the right-hand side, and it ruined my lap, so I backed off. The lap wasn't great anyway, so I thought to myself, you know what, we'll just chill and reset, and we'll go again. So you can see here, I went for another lap, so we're going to see what we can do the second time around as we make our way through the first few corners here. And you can see now by the end of the lap, of course, we are improving, because we're going flat out this time. The question is, will it be enough to progress into Q2? We do brush the wall a little bit there on the exit as we now run up to the line, and we go P8. So a good first lap in qualifying, to be fair, and I'm very much happy with that one. So yeah, overall no complaints on my end, and the car seemingly working very well. And we go through into Q2 in P9. Pierre Gasly also through in 13th place. But in Q2 is when the rain arrived, of course, that was forecast, and I went out pretty early, and I only got one lap in this session. So let's run aboard for a full lap of the circuit Jules Villeneuve, and let's see where this lap is, what it's like, and is it going to be enough to get into Q3. There we go, through the fast chicane, keeping it nice and clean, trying not to abuse the track limits too much, keeping the car to the right hand side for the shortest run to the line, and we go P3 behind Sebastian Vettel and Valtteri Bottas with a 1 minute 8.3, which was actually a pretty strong lap. And then eventually the rain started to fall, and there was not enough time to go for another run, and you can see Pierre Gasly also through in 10th place. So both cars into Q3, which is awesome, and we seem very competitive around here as we now move into Q3. The session started off in the wet conditions with the intermediates, as you can see on the top left, and I waited until the last 2.5–3 minutes to go for a lap, and I was the first car to try on the dry tyres, but the grip wasn't quite there on the first lap. I made a mistake and I decided to turn the engine down and take it easy, because you know, there's no point in wasting the tyres or the fuel when I knew the lap wasn't going to be the best. So we got ready, we went for another lap. We are going to set a decent lap time and go P3 anyway with the engine turned down, just because of the tire difference compared to the intermediates. But this was my stronger lap, and you can see here now 2 purple sectors, and we're coming through at a pretty strong pace as we now go through the final chicane, running up to the line. The lap in itself wasn't great, it wasn't very clean, but we do go P1 in qualifying. But that wasn't all. 7 seconds to go. I've got just about enough in the tank. It's going to be close. We're going to try and go for one more. So as you can see, we're 2 tenths up already, and this is a much better lap. Perez now going quickest for Racing Point. I'm having to mess around with the engine modes because I don't have enough fuel to get to the line, so I'm having to kind of move it around and trying to see where I can find some more fuel saving around the lap. You can see now we're getting pushed down quite quickly down the order. Now P7 in this session, as we just went P1 very quickly before. Now P8 and now P9, so we're literally going to be dropped all the way down to P10, and you can see we're now half a second up, so we are improving. But the main concern here is the fuel, and we're very, very marginal. As we head into the hairpin here, we find even more lap time, 7 tenths up on my previous best, and this would be a much better lap to get as we approach now the final chicane. Currently P10, so we have to improve, but the fuel is looking marginal. I'm trying to stretch it into standard mode we go, and I should have maybe gone down to lean through here. I might have just saved enough fuel as we now opened the RS, and we've just conked out, run out of fuel as we run up to the line. We improved by, I believe, a 1/10 of a second in the end, which is nothing, and unfortunately it's only P10 in Q3, and that was just bad timing. Simple as that. We tried to, you know, go out the end, not go on the intermediates, just go straight for the dries, and we got the timing all wrong. And it's a shame because the lap we did in Q2, which was a 1 minute 8.3, would have given us P6, and had we not run out of fuel, we would have got P6. We was improving by 7 tenths, which would have been enough to get ahead of Carlos Sainz. So a real shame in the end, as Pierre Gasly qualifies in P7. And in terms of the rivalry breakdown, Kimi Raikkonen actually outscored us and out-qualified us here today, which is quite surprising. So yeah, in the end, we didn't optimize qualifying, but that was just, you know, the nature of it. We got the timing wrong, which is a bit unfortunate. But yeah, guys, that's it for qualifying. We're now well on our way to level 7 in terms of driver acclaim. And with that said, guys, hopefully you enjoyed it. We're now going to move into the race, though, for round number 6, I believe, for the Canadian Grand Prix.
Hello and welcome to the Ile Notre Dame once again for what promises to be another incredible Canadian Grand Prix at a fiercely competitive circuit, where pole position can often be decided by less than a 1/10 of a second. It's one of the fastest races of the season here at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, with around 60% of this 2.7-mile circuit taken at full throttle. There are 14 corners to navigate, the very last of which has its very own infamous history. Could be the cause of a safety car today. And as always, a man with plenty of racing experience joins me in the commentary box. Today it's Anthony Davidson. Tell me, Ant, you're no stranger to surviving the melee of turn 1. So how do you keep out of trouble when there's so much going on around you?
Well, the throttle goes both ways, Crofty. You've got to have the discipline not to try and win the race on the first lap. So always be prepared to lift early and give those around you more space. Trying to be the last of the late breakers with half a dozen cars around you may pay off from time to time, but it's also a great way to lose your front wing.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's race. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, and it's Charles Leclerc in P2. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Vettel, Verstappen, Carlos Sainz, and Gasly, Perez, Raikkonen, Martinez, and Lando Norris, Ricciardo, Stroll, Valtteri Bottas, and Ocon, Albon, Magnussen, Romain Grosjean, and Antonio Giovinazzi. Latifi and George Russell ends our grid lineup. And now it's time to head down to the track.
So as you can see then, for the race, we have the strategy on screen. We're going to be starting on the soft compound tyres that we qualified on in Q2, then moving on to the mediums, and then back onto the softs at the end, because we've got quite a lot of soft tyres to burn. Fuel-wise, we're going to go 0.5 extra, so not super heavy, but, you know, keeping some in the tank just in case, because I feel like it could be one of those races, you know, like I said, it's a power circuit, and you do use a lot of fuel around here, so we need a little bit in the reserve. But with that said, we're now going to move into the 5 red lights here at Canada, and let's see what kind of start we get. Starting from 9th place through the penalties to other cars around us. Here we go, lights out and away we go, and it's a good launch off the line, getting some great traction here. We're going to jump Raikkonen straight away, get onto the outside line and try and challenge Sergio Perez here into the first corner. Now getting the inside line through turn 2, being very cautious and, you know, very, very slow so far, just trying to avoid having damage as we make our way up to P7. Perez trying to go around the outside of turn number 4. Doesn't quite work for him as Gasly gets the move there on Carlos Sainz, and suddenly both AlphaTauris, P5 and P6 already here on lap number 1, which is absolutely awesome. And we're putting some pressure on Sainz here. This is the one corner where I struggle compared to the AI. They always get much better traction than me, but this time we seem to do okay on the first lap, and we're tucked in behind Sainz. I do fancy my chances of getting past both Sainz and Gasly. I know I've got the pace. We didn't show that in qualifying, but here we go. Overtake mode engaged, and Sainz doesn't seem to have his overtake mode on. So we're going to go for a look here down the inside into the hairpin and go for the move. And it's a nice little tidy overtake on the Spaniard, and we are through up into P6 already. So what a first lap from P9 to P6, and both cars up in the top 6, which is incredible. And now on lap number 3, DRS has been enabled, and we are tucked in behind Pierre Gasly, and I feel like I've got a better pace. You know, you've got Verstappen in front, both Ferraris, and they're not really pulling away, so I feel like if I can get clear of Gasly, I can get onto the back of the cars in front. So here we go, DRS, rich mix, and overtake mode engaged, and we're going to breeze past our teammate. He's sticking to the racing line to avoid the marbles, and we're going to get ahead, even before the brake zone, into the chicane and make the move up into P5 here in this Canadian Grand Prix. And after just 3 laps, we are well in the mix here as we set a new personal best onto lap number 5. And you can see we've got a 1.7 second gap to Pierre Gasly, so we've pulled away quite comfortably and quite easily from my teammate. And now on lap 6, you can see we are now within DRS range of Verstappen, Leclerc and Sebastian Vettel. I believe all of these guys running the medium tyres, so we do have a bit of an edge on pace. But unfortunately, it was a very frustrating one because I was starting to run out of soft tyres and I wasn't able to challenge these guys, so I just kind of sat behind them, watched them. As we go on to lap 8, we get very close to Max here into the hairpin, and I'm trying to set up a switchback, but it wasn't happening. We tried our best, we just ultimately lacked a little bit of grip. The tyres were going off, and this was our scheduled pit stop lap, so we are going to box here for some medium tyres. But look how close this was. As we go into the pit lane here, we let off the gas, we tried to hit Verstappen, it's so damn close, but we just avoid the contact and time it beautifully, and we don't speed. So a really good pit entry considering the circumstances. As we now make our way into our pit box, we're going to strap on the mediums like I mentioned before at the start of the race, and away we go. No hold up, which is perfect. Not the best stop. I think we definitely could do better with the pit stops. We have been a bit slow so far this season as we get a 2.8 stop. And now here we go, rejoining onto the track, and it looks like it's going to be behind quite a fair amount of traffic in fairness. We're going to rejoin behind Antonio Giovinazzi and I believe both Haas cars, so not ideal, but we're going to have to try and, you know, make light work of these guys and try and get by. And here we are at the end of the lap, all over the back of Giovinazzi, and it's going to be pretty much a carbon copy move on Sainz, but this time Giovinazzi defends the inside, he locks up. We're going to go around the outside using the fresh tyres and the grip and make a nice easy move there on the Italian, and as a consequence of that long hairpin by running deep, we got a really good exit, and that's put us onto the back of Grosjean, and simultaneously we're getting a run on Magnussen here. We're going to go to the inside and get past both Haas cars, and it's a double overtake into the final chicane, and what a brilliant move that was, getting past 3 cars in about 3 corners and making light work of the traffic. As we're now up to P9 in this race. We've got Sebastian Vettel leaving the pit exit, which was quite surprising because he only done 10 laps on the mediums, which is really, really odd to me. He rejoins on soft tyres in front of us, and you can see now at the end of lap 10, Sebastian caught in traffic. Meanwhile, I've got momentum here, and I'm going to try and go down the inside and have a little look, and we do go for the move into the hairpin. Can we make it stick? Sebastian's still on the outside here. We're trying to see if we can get better traction than him. A little bit of contact as well for good measure on the exit there, and it's going to be a drag race. In the meantime, though, we're getting the run on Albon here. We're trying to get the slipstream, and here we go, and we're going to make the move, and we're going to go down the inside of Alexander Albon here into the final chicane, as actually a bunch of cars, Pierre and Alex, goes into the pit lane as well. So we're going to gain a bunch of places and move up into P4 now in this Canadian Grand Prix. Sebastian Vettel now going to be stuck behind us on those soft tyres, and we've got Verstappen in front who's still in the mediums. Lewis has just rejoined, it looks like, on soft tyres in P3, and we now cut onto lap 12, and I'm on my way to set a personal best. In the meantime, Leclerc and Verstappen finally pit off of their medium tyres onto another set of soft tyres, and we're going to take P2 in this race. We set a personal best. Can we hold on to P2? Here comes Leclerc on the pit exit, and we do just about get in front. So the undercut has worked out, pitting on lap 8 for the mediums, and getting past the traffic very, very quickly, and that's worked out nicely. We're now P2 in this race, but look at this, Charles Leclerc getting stuck in straight away. He goes to the outside here. We managed to defend it, but I've run a bit deep on the brakes, and now Leclerc on the switchback around the outside of turn number 6. What a move from him. He's got the soft tyres, he's got the grip and the performance, and it's an easy move for him, and I can't do much about it, unfortunately, and we have to let him go. He's way too fast for me at this stage of the race, whereas Sebastian Vettel is not that quick. I don't know if he's got a car issue or maybe some wing damage, but Seb wasn't that quick as we lose Daniel Ricciardo from the race, and Charles Leclerc setting a new fastest lap as we set a personal best. And you can see behind we've got a 1.2 second gap to Verstappen now, who's actually overtaken Seb Vettel. So it looks like Sebastian's struggling for pace at the minute, which is really, really good for us. It's quite encouraging in the sense that we can be battling for a podium. And here comes Verstappen then. He's now on the back of us on those soft tyres, of course. And at this point, the target was simple. Try and manage the ERS, because we've both got the same engine, and at this point the soft tyres on Verstappen's car aren't as fresh as they once were, and Leclerc didn't exactly drop me. You know, it took him a while to get a gap, and I was actually quite comfortable. I was able to keep Verstappen behind. I was using the ERS in all the right places. You can see here we're quite comfortably staying in front, and Max isn't really challenging me. And now on lap 19 you can see Lewis Hamilton, the race leader, into the pit lane, and he's going to go for the medium tyres in that Mercedes. So he's now going to go for the regular strategy of 2 softs and a medium, and we're now back up to second place for the time being. And you can see Leclerc 3.8 up the road, so he's not really pulled away that much, to be fair. Lap 21 now though, and Leclerc actually pits, and I believe Verstappen is going to follow him in, which he does. So both of those guys are going to box. I'm not sure what time they're going to go for. We'll find out shortly. Probably another set of mediums. I think 14 laps is quite a long way to go on soft. So we're now skip on to lap 23, and Mr. Lewis Hamilton, of course, boxed 3 laps ago. He's now starting to catch up, and he's got a lot more performance, of course, in that Mercedes on those fresh mediums, and our tyres now are very second hand, so we don't even really fight it. We let Lewis get on with it, and I'm just going to try and make sure I get a good exit and get a slipstream down the back straight, because that's the best thing we can do to avoid a major time loss. As we now skip on to lap 25, we're now going to box for our final pit stop of the race, and we're going to go for the soft compound tyres. So hopefully we can now be aggressive. You can see Hamilton, Leclerc, Verstappen, Vettel all on medium tyres, so we are going to have a big tyre advantage in this final stint. These soft tyres are also fresh as well because of the rain in qualifying. It meant we saved the set, so we get to be really aggressive. Here we are currently P4 then, as Sebastian Vettel drives by right now, and we're demoted briefly down to P5. As away we go, and we're going to rejoin just behind Sebastian, who's just in front of us. But again, we've got the benefit of the soft tyres, and the pace of the car seems really, really strong around here this weekend. And you can see now at the end of lap 27, we are tucked in behind the 4-time world champion, and we've got so much more momentum and pace. And you can see here, using the overtake, just waiting for the DRS to be enabled, and now we're going to crank the engine up and give it some full power here. We're going to go to the left-hand side, try and get the move done before the final corner, just like we did with Pierre Gasly on lap 3, and we sweep around the outside and make a beautiful move on Sebastian Vettel for P4 in this race now, and in the process setting a brand new fastest lap of the race with the DRS assistance. And there we go, so the gap to Verstappen 4.2 seconds with 7 laps to go, and I was able to chip away and get the gap down to about 1.5, and it was around this point where it kind of leveled out a bit. So Verstappen picked up his pace a little bit, and I was starting to really lose the soft tyres, and unfortunately the gap kind of stayed there until the end of the race. I wasn't able to make any more inroads. Max and Leclerc were just a bit too quick, but still P4 today in Canada. I'll take that. What a result.
That's the end of the race. We'll see you in Parc Fermé.
That's it then for another magnificent Canadian Grand Prix, and they've hung on to take a sublime victory here today. And talk to me, what do you think it was that sealed the win for them?
I think that smart tyre management on track and very smooth driving definitely assisted in their victory today. That combination meant they got the absolute maximum out of their tyres at all times.
So after a magnificent race, we can now see the drivers making their way to the podium. Once again, it's the Silver Arrows who take top spot, a well-earned victory for Mercedes.
And as you can see, looking at the final race results, we get confirmation of our 4th place finish and our fastest lap. So 13 points for us here today. Lewis Hamilton comfortable out front, picking up the race win. Leclerc 2nd, Verstappen 3rd, Sebastian Vettel P5 in the end ahead of Sergio Perez. Carlos Sainz 7th ahead of Valtteri Bottas, who only manages P8 today in the Mercedes, which was quite disappointing for him. Pierre Gasly scores points in P9, and Kimi Raikkonen scores the final point for Alfa Romeo in 10th place, with Norris, Ocon, Albon, Stroll all missing out on the top 10. We then move into the driver standings, and we are currently P5, only 3 points behind Sebastian Vettel and 2 points ahead of Max Verstappen. Behind though, Pierre Gasly drops down to P12 as Sergio Perez and Carlos Sainz move forward, and you've got Perez, Gasly and Stroll on a 3-way tie there for 12 points. So hopefully if Pierre can just have one strong race, he could move all the way up into the top 8. But that aside, we then move into the constructors, and you can see we are in 4th place, about 24 points behind Red Bull, and we've got over 35 points on McLaren. So we're looking pretty comfortable in terms of the midfield battle, and we're holding down that 4th place quite nicely. But that is it for the race here at Canada. We're now going to move into an interview.
Did you struggle to get through all that traffic today?
Not really. The car was brilliant, the engine was great, and we could just push the car to the max and it just held on.
You're surpassing all expectations. Can anything or anyone stop you?
Well, I mean, there's always things that can happen, but the team are doing a great job and we're working really well at the moment, which is great.
How do you feel this season is going for you? Is the car competitive?
I think so. I think we're really competitive. You know, we've scored big points in every race so far, and, you know, the championship tells the picture.
Do you think you were lucky not to end your race with that crash?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't remember hitting anything, personally, so not really.
Appreciate your time.
There we go then, after the race, looking at the rivalry breakdown. We outscore Kimi Raikkonen once again, quite comfortably to be fair. We need 11-7 with 4 races to go, so quite a long way to go yet on the rivalry, but hopefully we can keep improving and extending that gap. Also in terms of acclaim, we almost level up to level 7, we just fall shy. And in terms of the laptop now, you can see on screen we've got a 10-day turnaround until the next race at France, so plenty of time to get some upgrades turned around, and we're going to do that right now as we look at the chassis. And we're going to throw on 2 minor upgrades, and hopefully these will arrive. I'm going to try and rush them and see if we get lucky, and hopefully we can have them both arrive. We had a bit of luck in the last episode. I'm hoping for a bit more luck again. So let's see if at least one of those upgrades arrive before the French Grand Prix. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. So we're going to skip ahead on the calendar, and we're going to get some extra resource points. And then the question is, do the upgrades arrive? No, they don't. They both failed, which is a shame. I was hoping at least one of them would have made it, but unfortunately neither of them did. So we're going to have to just purchase the one that's going to be more effective, and hopefully that will arrive after the French Grand Prix. So yeah, that's a shame, but it is what it is. Either way, guys, that is it for this episode here today of the Driver Career Mode. And heading into the next race, we're not going to have any upgrades, but hopefully we're still pretty competitive nonetheless. But if you guys enjoyed today's video, then by all means drop me a like, guys, and also subscribe if you are new to the channel. Once again, I'm trying to hit 50k subs, so any help would be massively appreciated. On screen right now, you've got 2 other videos, including the previous episode at Monaco. And guys, that is it from me here today, and I'll see you all next time for the French Grand Prix at Le Castellet. But until then, guys, take care, have a good evening, and I'll see you all next time.